I'm Jack Smith, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what's new for 2018. And I picked most of these, or a lot of these, from the All-America selections, which are new plants for this year. They are a little bit of everything. They're vegetables, they're flowers, they're shrubs, they're vines, they're whatever. They're new plants that you find in the garden for this year. And they are tested from coast to coast, border to border. Two of their sites are in Tennessee, where they test these. One is at the experiment station in Jackson, Tennessee. One is at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So they get a pretty good cross-section of what, where, when, why, and how. This is a canna. You know what cannas are? Yeah. Okay. This is an unusual one. It's a new one, and it's a real brilliant color. It's a real strange one in that when you go and buy a canna to put in your yard, you buy a corm or a rhizome or something that you plant, bulb kind of type thing. This one, you buy a seed. They don't, a seed, yes. It's really weird. They didn't describe it as being a seed plant here, but you go buy the seed, plant it, it comes up and it does its thing, and then after you plant the seed and it grows, it develops its own corm or root part and will come up from there from then on. So you don't have to buy the corm, you buy the seed, plant it, and it develops its own. It's a little bit different. It's the only one around that is a canna that you can develop that way. It's something different. This is a new one. It's a brilliant color. It's a long bloom period, as it says there, and it's grown from seed, not a tuber. This is a Mexican heather, and it's a brilliant color. It only grows about 10, 12 inches high, so it's something that is good for a container. It can be used as something that you can put down low in front of something that you have in your flower beds. So, but it's a dark green foliage, and the brilliant color there, it's kind of a purplish, I do believe, and it has usually heathers have a small blossom. These are a little bit larger than what you typically find. It's a new one, and it is one that's been tested and works well. Gypsophilia, it's a blossom, white. It's compact. It's white. It doesn't grow but to about 12 to 14 inches tall, if I remember right. It's again another one for your beds outside that you can either put in a container or small spaces, that it says there. Garden beds, large, long bloom season, better heat tolerant than the Gypsy Compact. White will make your new garden a favorite. It's a beautiful little plant, lots of possibilities. It's not an invasive like some of these plants are, so you don't have to worry about where you're going to be putting it, because it will actually only take the space that it's in and will not expand. Guess what we have? We have a marigold, right? So it's a French marigold with dark maroon, lower petals, yellow, and the list of winning continues a little more uniform, stable color pattern. It's again a low grower, 10 to 12 inches. So if you like marigolds, this is a new one. This is an ornamental hot pepper, and you see the little red balls on it. It's a real dark leaf, and those little red balls, they just stand out. They just kind of pop. It again is a low grower, so it's not too many people around grow peppers as an ornament, but this is an ornamental pepper. So you get a flower for the pepper, then you get the little red balls, and they stay on until frost. So it's an interesting plant. Black pearl is another ornamental pepper that you definitely do not want to eat, because it will absolutely burn you alive. And I don't know, they didn't say anything about this, whether or not it was really a good edible pepper or not. So I don't know. I would, if I was going to try to test it, I would test it very, very gently and not eat an awful lot of it at one time. And then we got a corn. It's a same as one that they had out about 20, 25 years ago. It's a good one. It grows about 6 to 8 feet tall, and it's just it's a good corn if you like to grow it. Of course, if you're going to grow corn, you're going to have more than one plant. They suggest that you have at least 50. 50. Why? Because it's not like most plants. It is air pollination. It doesn't have a bee or an insect to pollinate it. It is all air pollinated. The silk at the top, the pollen drifts down and lands on the silk of the ear, and that's what pollinates it. So you can't have one plant, or you might not get any pollination on the ears. So they suggest that you have at least 50 plants if you have it in the garden. Now, they do have a corn, not this one, that you can put in containers, and it only grows about 4 feet tall. So you can put those in a container and kind of put it in a protected area, and the pollen will drift down to the ears, and it will pollinate itself that way. But it's for a large ear corn, like farmers grow, you're going to have a bunch of pollen that's floating around in order to get those ears pollinated to where they will produce a corn. Bok choy, it's a Chinese cabbage. This is a new one. It's it's one that will supposedly will not bolt and during warm weather and put up a seed pod. It will stay bolt. It means it grows up and forms a flower in order to generate seed. So it doesn't, the heat of the early summer does not make it bolt. So you'll have the bok choy a little longer than the previous ones. It's 6 or 7 inch heads. It's tasty, white rib, dark green. And they say it's the best they've ever seen. But anyway, we got some more pepper, but this is an edible kind. This one is not, as I recall reading this before, it's not a real hot one. It does have some flavor, has a little heat to it, but it's not a real hot one. Like I said, the thick wall fruit, spicy but tastier than traditional cayenne. But it's enough to kind of create a little bit of warmth and create a little bit of interest for you. Some more. This one kind of looks like the typical hot habanero, but it's not. It's kind of citrusy, delight with the early production, large uniform fruit. The judge noted that each plant produces 10 to 11, and at one time I have 11 for the full season, so you'll have quite a bit of peppers off of that one plant or however many you have. Okay, this is a yellow pepper. They're kind of hot they're really kind of pushing peppers this year for some reason. They mature a little bit earlier. They are semi-hot, can be used for ornamental purposes as well as processing, pickling, and fresh. Vegetable gardeners enjoy the pepper with its attractive fruit, early maturity. It's a nice looking one. It's a little bit, I think it's semi-hot. It's a little different. It's not a red pepper, but it is a pepper that can be used. A tomato. This is we're going to grow this firm-fleshed delicacy. The judges raved about the prolific yield because it'll produce. It'll grow to about 5 feet. It's an indeterminate. If you know what an indeterminate tomato is, it's a tomato that will continue to grow for the full season. When you put it out, it will grow and grow and grow and grow until frost kills it. A determinate tomato is one that only grows to about 4 feet, produces tomatoes and dies. So this is an indeterminate, so it will grow the full season rather than growing up till, say, mid-July, producing all of its tomatoes at one time and then dying. So this will produce tomatoes for the full year. 30 or more tomatoes from each plant each year. So it's, yes ma'am?
Do you have to build a special frame to hold all that?
Yes. Well, you can let them grow on the ground, just grow out. My dad, when I was growing up, I lived on a farm. My dad would plant 25 to 30 tomato plants every year, and that would feed probably the whole county if it had been done right. But my mother would go out and use a number 10 galvanized wash tub to pick tomatoes, but she would can them and do tomatoes juice and tomatoes and whatever else, and we would eat tomatoes. But anyway.
Can you grow that one in a pot, or can you grow that one in a
Yes.
big container?
Yes, yes. I am a container grower now.
Yeah.
I don't do like my dad did, planting 20 or 30, 25 or 30 tomato plants. I grow 1 or 2, and it's in a container. I had one about 2 or 3 years ago that I kind of let go. It didn't really produce that well. It was a wrong kind. It was a new tomato, and I got it, and it tended to grow rather than produce. And it grew this tall, and then decided that it was going to grow more and went back down to the ground. It produced plant and not tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So we had a few tomatoes off of it, but not very many. So, but anyway. Mm-hmm. Next one, please. It's a new one. It's a small, kind of a cherry or grape tomato. Compact, determinate, huge yield, 7 to 8, 10 days. Small space and for containers, another one for containers. One judge says that it's a red racer, small in size, big in taste. So it might be a good one if you're wanting some small tomatoes. This is a new one called Red Racer. Hands down, judges agreed that this was a peeling grape tomato. It's a small one, maybe the size of your thumb or something of that size. So it's quite prolific, matures in 55 days, and that's a little early for tomato. Usually it takes them 60 to 75 days to produce their first tomatoes once you set them out, not from the time you plant the seed. So if you plant the tomato today, roughly 55 days from now is when it will actually start producing, not from the day the seed was planted up until this day. A new zinnia. This is kind of a weird color, kind of an orangey green. It's an interesting one and has a real interesting blossom. Unique color, kind of a coral peach orange. It's different than most of them. You'll see either reds or yellows or something of that nature, but this is totally different from what they've been doing. It's good for cut flowers and produces heavy and blooms that last about 3 weeks on the plant. So they won't last 3 weeks in a vase, but on the plant they will last for about 3 weeks.
Height. Do you know the height?
No, the height, no I don't. They didn't tell us what it was. I would say it's probably 18 to 24 inches. That's a guess. This is a vine, and it's white flowers, and it will grow up to 12 feet, but it needs full sun. And they are edible, believe it or not. The flowers are edible. Kind of a purplish fruit, a real head turner when you see them. And from what it's not on here, but from what I read about it, the blossoms are about 3 to 3.5 inches long. It's a real different type of flower. This is a hydrangea, a new one from long-lasting, large blossoms, wonderful dark bronze. It only grows up to about 3.5 feet tall. So it actually could be used in a container as well. St. John's wort. This is There is a St. John's wort that is native to this part of the world. This is not one that is native. Of course, they've taken the native and worked on it and hybridized it to some degree, and clusters of creamy white fall berries as well as the flower in the summertime. It grows up to about 3 feet. It's semi-evergreen. Now, what a semi-evergreen means, I don't know. I guess it's if it doesn't frost or get real cold, it'll stay green all winter. But if we had a winter not this winter, last winter, we had a real mild winter, and maybe it might have stayed green all year last year, not this year. I don't know what they mean by it's semi-evergreen, but anyway, it's an interesting plant. St. John's wort, they're good for small beds, and it gives you a little bit of a yellow color that you can have in there. Yes, this is a shrub, a different one, because it has that color leaves on it rather than something that is green. Will give you a little bit of a different look in your shrub bed. It'll grow up to about 5 feet and is deciduous as well. So it's good for this area. It's zone 4 through 8, and we're in a 6A. So it would be real good here. It's a compact shrub, and it also has a white flower on it. So it'd be something that you might be, if you wanted to have a small screen that is not real tall. 5 feet would be a good screen plant to kind of differentiate between you and maybe a neighbor. Potanella, green foliage, yellow flowers, cheesehead. I wonder where they got that name since it's the yellow flower. Wonderful choice for adding a shock color to a summer landscape. Yeah, it grows up to about 2 feet. It's not a very tall, so it's something that you can put in at a low area. It's partial to full sun, and it is deciduous. It also is good for this zone area, since we were in a 6 right in the middle of there. Cherry laurel, resistant. This is a little bit of a hedge type thing. Excellent hedge. Birds love it because of the fruit that it provides, and you get a pretty good flower blossom there in the spring too. And they're fragrant. Likes partial shade to partial sun, so it's not a real sun lover. It'll take some sun, but not a lot. 3 feet tall, 6 feet wide, so it'll get out kind of wide but kind of low. So if you want a low hedge but a little bit wide, it would work fine. This is a rose, believe it or not. Doesn't look like a rose at most of us. The fuss-free, they have their own roots. It's not a grafted root. Hedge for an accent plant. It is fragrant. It grows up to 4 to 5 feet tall. It is deciduous, as are most roses, all roses, and it works well in this this zone area also. Glossy green foliage, red tinge, new growth. It's rather fragrant, but it's a different type of rose. It's not one with the tight bud, like you normally see roses. Weigela. This is a different one because it has a kind of a purplish type of blossom and a yellow leaf. So if you want something that's a little bit different in color and contrast, would be real good. It's good for foundation because it does grow up to 6 feet tall, which I wouldn't call it. They call it a great hedge or foundation plant. If it's a 6-foot plant, it's not a good foundation plant. Perhaps it's probably the brightest color of the Weigelias that you'll see. Will grow in the sun, partial to full sun, and it is deciduous, again, good for this zone area. Spirea. This Spirea is an old plant, but this one is a new one. Tough and compact, orange, new foliage, gold and hot pink spring flowers. tolerates full sun, adapts to poor and compact soil, works well here. Got poor and compact soils here. Partial shade to full sun, up to 3 feet tall and wide. It again is deciduous, great for this zone area. Candy apple hydrangea, look, has a beautiful blossom there. If you notice, it's up to about 5 feet tall, about as tall as I am. Not strong color, limelight delivers that, and compact, dense, 3 seasons of interest because you get the bloom in there in the early summer, white in the summer, pale pink in the autumn, and then the fall bloomers also gives it a little bit a darker color in the fall. Partial shade to full sun, so it's would be good for a lot of locations in this part of the world. Bluebeard, it's not too many flowers come out that are blue, so this is one if you're interested in. Shiny yellow foliage with a blue blossom on it, makes it kind of stand out. Fragrant blossoms, early glows, and it's in the summer, but it also works well in the fall, and they say it's perfect pairing with hydrangeas. Full sun, up to 3 feet tall and wide, deciduous, so it's something you may be interested in looking at. Another hydrangea, it's a different color, pinkish red, mophead bloom. Flowers develop a lovely green tinge as they age. Compact, perfect for massing in landscape or in containers. Partial shade to filtered sun, up to 3.5 feet tall, and so it would work well in a container. This is this is an interesting a clematis. I don't know if any of you are very interested, have known clematis that well. This has a blossom that is 4 to 5 inches wide, large. So it's, most of the ones that I have seen are probably maybe at the most 2 inches. So this is a large blossom, white blossoms. They say it's a hint of blue. I haven't seen a hint of blue in it, but once it blooms on old and new wood, so there's no wrong way or time. You can prune it just about any time you want to. Thrives in full sun, partial shade, but clematis are a little strange. They like to have their roots cool. So I haven't figured out how you can put something out in the sun and have cool roots. You have to have a lot of mulch on it. Yeah, that's basically what you have to do. What I would probably do would be put it in a location where it could get up. It doesn't give me a height there. It's probably going to bloom. Well, it's a vine, so it's going to be growing up. You could probably put it back somewhere where it would be shaded and behind by some shrubs. Also with some mulch on the top of it, which would keep those roots cool. They do like a little bit of water more than probably than a lot of plants do, but they don't like to drown in water by any means. That's it. Yeah. If you want to start your own plants that you're going to set out, like your zinnias and marigolds and that type thing, you can go to one of the catalogs and you'll find a little thing here, the tray, and some paper mache pots and whatever that you can start your plants in. Can start them now, actually. And as soon as, say, the end of March and the 1st of April, as long as they are somewhat protected, because the last frost that we have in Murfreesboro is around the 15th of April. So you may want to, if you're going to put them out a little before the 15th of March, you may have to have some way to protect the plants. But now is a good time to really start those plants to have them up to where they are the right size to plant in April. The way to do that is to get this little tray here that has a paper mache pot, and you fill the pots with potting soil, plant your seed, and it's got a cover. Well, it's interesting in that this one is $23.99. Okay, that's just for the little pots that you're going to use. and the container, okay, to start them in. And it will start 32 plants. That's almost $1 a pot. All right? How about doing about that many plants for about $1.50? Would that work? Very good. All you have to do is go to Kroger. You seen these? You know what they are? Something that you cook in, right? Basically, that's all that container is. And I showed some of you that have been here for 2 or 3 years how to make your own pots. Newspaper, okay? Little strips, newspaper. When you get through the toilet tissue roll, save it. And then we're going to wrap this around here like this. And then we're going to take the bottom end and crush it up. And guess what you got? And you can probably get, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably get between 25 and 30 of these in this. I bought 2 of these pans. I think it was $3.50 for those 2 pans. There is one available. I didn't get that one. That is a little taller than this. So if you don't have a greenhouse, you can go to Kroger, buy you a roasting pan with a cover, a little bit of newspaper, a toilet tissue roll, or paper towel rolls, you know, same thing, and make your own. I made one Sunday a couple or 3 years ago. I made 125 pots in less than an hour. So, you know, it's something that you can do that you don't have to spend a lot of money, because you can make your own instead of going and paying somebody $25 or $30. I have seen these as high as $35. Once they come up, you'll want to take the top off. You can save it, put it down into the bottom, and just basically every 2 or 3 days go in and kind of mist those so those plants will not dry out. You don't want water to collect in the bottom because they will drown. They will rot, basically. So it's an idea that you can use. It's simple, it's cheap, and it's a lot cheaper than paying $25 or $30 for that little thing right there. A few years ago, they were saying that you shouldn't be using newspaper with color because there was a chemical in the color ink that was detrimental to plants. However, now they're using inks on paper that is soy-based, so there's no problem. Do not use magazine or something like that with the slick finish. Newspaper print paper only.